Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again.
It's time for the J. Craig 5, maybe 10-minute movie review.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another classic movie review at the J. Craig Podcast. I am Jay, thanks for being here. Last night I got to see The Terminator from 1984 on the big screen. Now I've never seen The Terminator on the big screen. It came out in 84, so I would have been 8 years old, so I didn't see it till probably the late 80s. Now, I've always been a fan of Terminator 2, and I've always thought that it might be one of the five sequels that's as good, if not better, than its predecessor. And I always thought this was one of those movies. Now, I just saw the Terminator 2, Judgment Day, a couple weeks ago with my boys. It's the more family-friendly Terminator movie. It's still violent, but it's not nearly as mean and as vicious and as dirty as the Terminator. However, after watching the Terminator 2 recently and then seeing Terminator on the big screen, I have to say that decision has been reversed. I believe the Terminator to be a far superior, I wouldn't say far superior, but maybe it's definitely superior to the Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And this viewing confirmed it. Now, maybe if I saw Terminator 2 on the big screen, that might change my mind again, because that has an impact for sure. But the Terminator is a really well-told movie. Now, if you're watching it for the first time, and by the way, if you haven't seen the Terminator, we have to have a talk. But please, go see the Terminator. See the Terminator. Seek it out and watch it. It's a very, very good movie. Now, effects-wise, in 84, it was phenomenal. You know, much like Godzilla was phenomenal in the King Kong was phenomenal in the 33, or Jaws in 75. But when you look at it from the eyes of 84, you know, from looking at it from the effects from that time frame, it plays very well. Yeah, the effects look old, but so what? You can't judge it based upon that. That's really unfair. So watch it with, understanding that it comes from 84, so it's not going to look like you're used to now. But wow, what a really well-told movie. Now, if you haven't seen this movie, please don't watch this. Watch it after you at least, but unless you probably know all the plot points anyways, because it's 2018 and everyone knows everything. Terminator is directed by James Cameron. This is, I think, his first feature, if memory serves. And man, was it a great entry into James Cameron as a filmmaker. It stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Michael Biehn. It's written by Gail Ann Hurd, the producer, and James Cameron, or I should say, with Gail Ann Hurd. And it stars, again, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Michael Biehn, and Sarah Connor. Well, Linda Hamilton, but she's Sarah Connor, right? So The Terminator is about a future where robots have taken over and they're about to wipe mankind out. Now, at the end of this battle, mankind wins, but in a last-ditch effort, the machines, send a robot into the past to kill the mother of the future resistance leader. Okay? Simple, but very complex. Now, anytime you had time travel, nothing's simple. And a lot of things that you can be loose with, too, though. That's really cool. Now, as they bring a robot to go assassinate the mother, the humans send somebody to help her out. And that's where the story is. Now, what I love about this movie is nothing's told to you. It's so under the carpet. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. The movie doesn't tell you anything to start. It just gives you a little bit of information at first about mankind versus the robots. And you start off with this big hunking guy that's coming out of nowhere with electricity, so he must be from the future, right? What is he all about? Okay, but he looks pretty badass. And then you have the human being, or the guy being kind of dropped out from this little device, and he's very different. And he's running instead of going after things, and he's trying to hide, and he's trying to survive. And it plays so well through actions of the character. This movie doesn't tell you anything to start. It just gives you character actions to help fill the gaps in a little bit until the real exposition comes out halfway through the movie. So I tried to watch this movie. It was impossible, but I tried to think about it in the way of somebody who's never seen this movie, so you could not know what's happening from one scene to the next. And if you try to look at it from a structure standpoint that way, it's so well done. But from the actions of the character, you know who's the good guy and who's the bad guy, right? So with the start, you don't know who's who, but Arnold Schwarzenegger is laser-sighted, he's focused, and he starts to kill people. Well, okay, so now we know he's possibly a bad guy. He's he's the villain maybe. And then you have Michael Bihn's character who is running, who is surviving, who is hurting people, but he's not killing them. Maybe he can't, or maybe he doesn't want to. Maybe he's the good guy. Okay, and then we're introduced to Sarah Connor, who's we know that she's going to be the focus of the movie. And when you see the telephone book with the 3 names, you know she's in danger. But when's it going to come? So there's that built-up tension. You have Arnold Schwarzenegger, who keeps going after the names, and you have Michael Biehn, who suddenly becomes a stalker. Who do you trust? Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? I mean, it's there for you, but without having to say it, which still leaves it with a question mark. Which is what's great about Terminator 2 is they reverse that, and you immediately think that Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to be the bad guy. Why wouldn't he be? He was the bad guy in the first one. Now another robot that's going to hunt her down again. And then it flips it. And so the fact that you don't know what's going on is really remarkable storytelling. But you still get the idea. But then once finally, that the midpoint comes where they sit down under the passage, under the overpass, and they have their conversation. She fixes them up with the field dressing. And then you start to understand what the real story is, and everything becomes clear. At least from the point of view of somebody from the future, right? So can you believe him? Let's look at 12 Monkeys for that matter. The confusion of storytelling from a time traveling standpoint on who do you believe, and what is that? Is he just crazy like the doctors think? So really, really well done movie. And if you ever get the chance to see it on the big screen, I highly recommend it. It is phenomenal storytelling. The action is really well done for being more of a, I don't want to call it cheap, but a lower production action sci-fi movie. I would love to see James Cameron do more of these movies. Instead of making Avatar 6, 7, 8, 9, do something more original or do something more low-key. Tell us a good story. Don't worry about creating all these crazy visual effects and being that guy right now. Try to do something more low-key. I'd love to see John Carpenter return to that, or just return, for that matter, John. But when it comes down to it, Terminator does stand the test of time, and that's what I like going back and seeing these movies in the theater. I saw Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan late last year, so that was before I started doing movie reviews. And oh man, that movie played even better now than it did back in the day. And I did see that one on the big screen, and that was in '82. So my dad took me to see that one. Awesome movie, but go see these old movies in the theater, because that's where you need to see them, because we're so distracted on the couch. You sit there and you watch a movie and you have distractions left and right, you're not paying attention. But when you're in front of that theater and that screening and that's all you have in front of you, you can't help but watch that. And that's the full theater experience. So if you ever see these movies being played, go be patrons to those theaters and watch these older movies so they keep doing that, so we can see these things for the first time, or for the first time again in some cases, right? So I hope you enjoyed Terminator from 1984 movie review, the classic movie review. I'm Jay, the J. Craig Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us over here, and then do check out the jcraig.com. Has all our movie reviews, all our podcasts, and of course everything's here on YouTube. Everything at your fingertips there. So thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. I'll be back. I shouldn't have said that.